everybody. Welcome to the final lesson of the Founder Acharya series here in 20th Jan 2019 here in New Talavana. Lesson 10, yours, Srila Prabhupada. Before we look at some ways to access and nourish our personal relationship with Srila Prabhupada, let's consider how our Founder Acharya is for everyone. Srila Prabhupada is for everyone because he's a universal teacher. He's a Jagat Guru. And Srila Prabhupada himself said of his own Guru Maharaj, when he was asked to give the keynote address for the launching of the Bombay Gaudiya Math in February 1935, on the occasion of Srila Saraswati Thakur's Vyasa Puja, Prabhupada famously said this. As I mentioned, this used to be printed every year. The BBT Vyasa Puja book. Now you only see it occasionally. I'll have to ask Srila Prabhu why that is. Quote, the Acharya Dev, to whom we have assembled tonight to offer our humble homage, is not the guru of a sectarian institution, or one out of many differing exponents of the truth. On the contrary, he is the Jagat Guru, the guru of all of us. The only difference is that some obey him wholeheartedly, while others do not obey him directly. So that was 35. 36 years later, 1971, Prabhupada speaking as the founder Acharya of ISKCON, he's visiting San Francisco. I believe it was around the time of the Ratha Yatra, yeah. And Prabhupada was asked a question, and his homage echoed that homage of 36 years before. When a reporter asked him a question, the question was, I think it's on the screen here. Okay, I'm going to ask you.
In June 1971, when Srila Prabhupada attended the San Francisco Ratha Yatra, a reporter asked him how many disciples he had.
And Prabhupada's answer echoed what he said before.
Unlimited, Prabhupada said. Some admit and some don't admit. Admit you are a servant of Lord Krishna and your life will be a success.
You have to be pure to say something like that, right? Purity is the force. Okay, so universal teacher. How about global preacher? There's Prabhupada, as I mentioned yesterday, deplaning. They don't make exits like that anymore. And somebody in the airline industry explained it has something to do with security.
Somebody jumped out of a plane with millions of dollars.
Oh, that movie. There was a movie about that. Yeah. Okay, so global preacher. Like Prabhupada deplaning in June 74 with Srila Maharaj in Geneva, and there's Guru Gauranga Prabhu, who again is active in Switzerland, I'm happy to say. And he was there to greet Srila Prabhupada. And this lady here, yeah, right? There. She connected Prabhupada to a TV station, and they had a nice long interview, and then that surfaced just when Madhavar Prabhu was following Srila Prabhupada, where you see all the footage ever taken of Prabhupada by devotees, non-devotees, and then right at the end she came in with this footage. And so in the revised edition he included the TV station's footage that they had just been keeping in some dusty room. Global preacher. Okay, I'm going to read a letter Prabhupada wrote to someone, and the background of the letter is the person was suggesting that Prabhupada could come to their Ratha Yatra in San Francisco, actually, although he was in Europe at the time. quote, regarding your invitation that I attend the Rath Yatra festival in San Francisco, this is in 74, and he did go, famous shots of Prabhupada on the cart. On July 7th, it is possible that I may attend, depending on when I finish my European tour. I am due to arrive in Rome on May 23, then after a week, Geneva, then Paris, and possibly Stockholm, Germany, and England. If there is time, I can fly directly from Europe to Los Angeles and go to the festival, which is another hop up to the Bay Area. Then, as you suggest, go to Australia Rath Yatra via Hawaii. This is known as Jet Age Paribrajaka. Now, Prabhupada didn't coin that. Somebody who worked for the Hindustan Times in India noticed Prabhupada's itinerary, and he wrote, "This is a Jet Age Swami." So Prabhupada liked that, and he used it. That was a letter to Jayatirtha, 5th May 74. Now, no matter what you do in this world, right, you're going to get criticized. There was a t-shirt I saw, avoid criticism, do nothing. Of course, if you don't do anything, you'll be criticized too. But one critic of Prabhupada's opined, and this is some just jealous Swami in India, that if Chaitanya Mahaprabhu wanted Krishna consciousness in the Western countries, why didn't he go there himself? To which Prabhupada shot back, so he left the credit for me. He loves his devotee more than himself. That's in the Transcendental Diary, Volume 1. Okay, Universal Teacher, Global Preacher. Oh, I forgot to put what's on the board here, or on the screen. Prabhu?
In 12 years, Srila Prabhupada circled the globe 14 times and established Krishna consciousness movement on every major continent.
Yeah, I said major because Prabhupada didn't go to the poles, but of course we've been to the South Pole now, right? Casey Hunter and somebody else went down to Antarctica, planted the ISKCON flag at one of these scientific stations, had kirtan, gave the scientists some books. They loved it. They loved the prasad. So, okay, do I have any? Oh yeah, and more?
He also initiated thousands of followers and continues to inspire countless more to surrender to Krishna as the Supreme Personality of Godhead.
I guarantee that if you, I think it's in the Lilamrita at the end, there's a timeline of Prabhupada's itinerary from the time he came until the time he left. If you just read the itinerary, you'll get jet lag. Just, I mean, Prabhupada, if he felt jet lag, he certainly didn't let on, because he just, wherever he landed, he just instantly adapted to the time zone. Whereas, what do they say? I think the health professionals say, for every time zone you travel, you need a day to recoup or something like that. But Prabhupada just, it's midnight, it's time to translate. At 6 a.m., it's time to go on a walk. It's noon, it's time for the massages. Wherever he was, he just adapted. That's like superhuman, because if you're traveling, it's exhausting. That's what wore me down after doing this seminar series for several years. I just got worn down. I think that's what made me susceptible to come down with something. Anyway, Prabhupada, and then of course his personal party couldn't keep up with him. When they had landed, then they'd set up Prabhupada's room, and then they'd crash. And then Prabhupada sometimes, Srila Kirti reports this, would peek in on the, and he would say, "You're useless. You're worse than karmis. Karmis work hard for their sense gratification. You're simply eating and sleeping." Couldn't keep up. Okay, and initiated thousands of followers. How many, Dina?
4800.
Yeah, not even. I think it's 4780 or something. But people always said to us, right, I see you guys everywhere. Because we were inspired by Prabhupada's face, and so we were You know, you go to Brahmananda, you go to Africa, Shivananda, you go to Germany, you know, it was just like, or the famous one, they were going from Allahabad, no, they were going from Bombay to Allahabad, and then in Delhi, they passed through Delhi, and so Prabhupada said to Guru Das and Jamuna, get down and do something. Get off the train, now. Get down and do something. The Prabhupada gave them one name. That's all. They didn't have any, that was it. Just do it. And that's how it spread. Because Prabhupada had faith, more faith in us than we did, and he empowered. You can do it. Krishna will help you. Yeah. So not that many compared to today, but that was the pioneer days. And how many were willing to do that? Not a whole lot, but somehow Krishna sent people who were willing to do that. Just do whatever Prabhupada said. Okay. Universal teacher, what was it? Global preacher. There it is. And then, how about matchless giver? While pioneering Krishna consciousness on many fronts over 12 years, how did Srila Prabhupada find the time to write so many books? Raise your hand.
You're asking or meant to be?
I'm
asking. How do you find the time to write so many books? He gave up sleep.
That's right. He made it. He made the time. That was what Prabhupada, that was how he'd answer his disciples about time. Oh, I'm getting up at midnight. Cut down your sleep. Yeah, so Acharya Prabhu would report that Prabhupada, he would go to bed usually around 10, and then he'd get up a couple hours later and start translating. He had just before sleeping, Acharya said he had a dry massage. The oil massage was at noon, and the dry massage was in the evening. And both Acharya and Sridhar would say, so you'd be massaging, and then when you thought Prabhupada was asleep, then you'd leave. But sometimes you'd leave too early. And you'd start to go, and Prabhupada would say, where to go, you know. You're finished, or you could say something. And translate through the night, and then he would, then he might stop, chant some japa, and then right around Mangalarti time, then he would bathe. And he'd put on fresh tilak, some more japa, and then when it was 6, then they'd come and fetch him for the walk, weather permitting. Or Prabhupada just liked to get out. Sometimes they would just go for a drive if it was inclement weather. And then right into deity greeting, darshan, and Guru Puja, and then Bhagavatam. And then breakfast. And then he'd take a little rest after breakfast. You know, maybe half hour to an hour. And then it would be time maybe to greet some guests or take care of business. Yeah, in the morning there was some business to take care of. I mean, Prabhupada's orchestrating a worldwide movement, so there was always some pressing business, right? So Prabhupada attended to that. Then noon was the oil massage, and then they'd read letters to him, and he'd dictate the replies, and whoever was the secretary would type it up. And then shower and Gayatri, and lunch around 12:31, something. And then he'd take another nap after lunch, maybe a little longer, maybe an hour and a half, or 2. So 2, 1, 3, you get around 4, 4.5, in every 24-hour cycle. So Prabhupada's days and nights, they weren't like ours, where we, you know, at night we go to bed, you know, for 6 or whatever we need, 7, 8. And like go deep, way under, right? The Prabhupada's days and nights were a weave of service and naps. And the servants always report that when Prabhupada would wake up, he would just open his eyes. He wasn't like me. I kind of like climb out of Talavana, you know. And I just saw a memory of Tamal Krishna Maharaj. He said, because he was with him, you know, non-stop for the last, from March to November. So he said Prabhupada's conversations were also not ordinary, because he would sometimes just stop talking about something and just stop, and then he would just go on to something else. And then later, he said, all of a sudden you'd hear Prabhupada say something and you didn't know it was apropos of what. It appeared to be out of the blue, but then the more Prabhupada talked, the more you realized that Prabhupada, he was picking up a conversation he had dropped with Tamal, you know, weeks or even months before. And he's picking up at the exact place, you know, on the page, so to speak. And then TKG, it started to sound familiar, and then you realized, oh, this is exactly where we're talking. So Prabhupada had this uncanny ability to balance, you know, matters and conversations, and he could really multitask. Okay, matchless giver. Yeah, so he didn't sleep much, which he felt to be a waste of time. He would say that sometimes before taking rest. Now I'm going to waste my time. Although he was always thinking of Krishna, you know, even when he was sleeping. He told us that in Vrindavan. He said, if you practice well enough, that you can dream of Krishna. It was very encouraging. Yeah, at that time too, Prabhupada was singing, or he was following. He was sitting on the Vyasasana at Bahulavan, looking at Sri Sri Radha Chandra, and I was sitting right next to him, on this side of the Vyasasana. And I was looking at Prabhupada most of the time. And then sometimes when he was playing the cartels, he would stop. And I thought Prabhupada was nodding out. In my ignorance, I was projecting but Prabhupada was just going internal. He was just like in samadhi. And then when he'd pick up, you know, he would just, it wasn't like he would nod out and then the cartels would drop. No, he was just internal, and then he would just come into external. And I thought, oh my God, I'm thinking that Prabhupada's nodding out like me. Or in New Vrindavan, did I tell this one? Was anybody at the Bhagavad Dharma discourse? Yeah. Do you remember in Janmashtami night what happened at 12:30?
Started reading Krishna's book.
Yeah. So there's Krishna book. Prabhupada. The arti's over, we're all starving, right? And we're expecting to break fast. And Prabhupada wants to hear about the advent of Lord Krishna. That's what's going on, right? So the sannyasis were passing around the Krishna book. You know, the big dandas, right? And so 12:30, 1:15, 1 o'clock, and everybody's starting to get really woozy. And the dandas start like that. And then, but Prabhupada, when I looked at him, his transcendental senses are getting more and more awakened as he hears the Leela. He's making all these expressions and gestures, and we're all kind of like on the ropes, you know. 1:15, 1:30, it's like an hour. Finally, at 1:45, 1:45, Prabhupada, he starts surveying the scene around him. The wreckage, right? The dandas are flat, like flat line, no brainwave, right? EEG, right? And Prabhupada just looks at us and he said, all right, I think you're becoming a little impatient. Take prasad. Well, we couldn't take prasad, we were out. We were out cold. So that's the difference, you know, between the Mukta Purush and the sadhana bhaktas, the priya bhaktas, the aspiring Vaishnavas. Okay, matchless giver. Another short sleeper is the cow, to whom Srila Prabhupada would sometimes compare himself. When I first saw Srila Prabhupada physically in the Detroit Metro Airport, he looked like a cow to me. because of his mouth, full lips, and he had this very prominent tongue. So when he floated up the escalator, there's a floaters club, me and Satyanarayan and Vijay Swami, we swear Prabhupada was floating. So then he floated up the escalator, then he floated to the Vyasasana they had rigged up in the lounge. And then Prabhupada brings the, tsunami-like kirtan to a crescendo and then a close. Then is the Jayam prayers. And then he said the most simple thing, the first words I ever heard him say, in Bhagavad. The cause of all suffering is due to misidentification with this material body. That's what he said. But he said it with such gravity and realization, we were all, like we never heard it before. And then someone hands a big tray of sweets to Prabhupada, and first a goblet of water, and he holds it up high, and we're all looking at, wow, look at this waterfall of water coming from this silver goblet. And then they bring the tray, and then Prabhupada just picks one, and he throws it he pops it in his mouth, and there was a crumb right on the corner of his mouth, where I was sitting right there. And he takes his cow-like tongue and flicks it in his mouth. I was struck with wonder to see that. So his whole mouth reminded me of a cow. And that's one of the Gita Mahatmyas. The Bhagavad Gita is just like a cow. And Lord Krishna, who was a cowherd boy, is milking his cow. Sarvo Panishado Gavo Gopal, what is it? Dugdago Palanandana Parto Vatsak Sudhir Bhokta Dugdham Gitamritam Lahat. His Gita Upanishad, Bhagavad Gita, is just like a cow. And Lord Krishna, who is a cowherd boy, is milking his cow. The milk is the essence of the Vedas. Arjuna is just like a calf. And the wise men, the great sages and pure devotees, are to drink the nectarian milk of Bhagavad Gita. So Prabhupada himself compared himself to a cow. Another short sleeper is the cow, to whom Prabhupada would sometimes compare himself. In his memories of Srila Prabhupada, Guru Das reports that once in Bombay, he told Srila Prabhupada he was concerned not enough people would show up for an engagement the devotees had arranged. Prabhupada replied, "No, I'm like a cow. I give milk anywhere. This is what I like to do." And then once Rukmini Devi reports that Prabhupada was in one place and he was going to fly to another place, and so the other place said, "Is Prabhupada going to take breakfast, or is he going to wait and take lunch when he lands here?" And so they asked Prabhupada, and Rukmini Prabhupada said, I'm like a cow, I can eat in any pasture. So I'll eat here and I'll eat there. So I was very happy to hear Prabhupada compare himself to a cow, because I thought of him like like a surrogate cow, right? Not unconstrained by the limits of flesh and blood, like I said to Jayanti. So when do you milk these cows? 7 and 5. I said, that's reasonable. That's a little easier than milking in the dark, especially when it's cold. So cows give milk twice a day, but surrogate cows, as we hear Prabhupada say on the record, they give as much milk as you like, anytime. Because why? Why is it that desire trees can give any kind of fruit, and surrogate cows can give milk any time? Any educated guesses? Why is that? I mean, these are spiritual world trees and spiritual world cows. So what's going on in the spiritual world that's not going on in the material world?
Krishna is in the center. Krishna is in the center.
Yeah. In other words, when people in general milk cows or pick fruit, it's for sense gratification. It's a prison house, we hear. And if you go to a prison, you see everything is more restricted. So that's what's going on here. You can get fruit, you can't get anything you want, because in the spiritual world, they're picking fruit, they're milking the cows to offer to Krishna. So because their desire is just to serve Krishna, the supply is unlimited, unlimited facility. So similarly, the more our desires become transparent to Krishna's desires, then Krishna will bless us with more and more facility, because we've given up the criminal mentality, and we're trying to make a nice offering to him. That was the point of that Prachetas slide. The Lord was so pleased with the Prachetas that he blessed them. So if we want the Lord's blessings, we have to line up with his desires. So matchless giver, what do I have here? Alright, how about Katya? Can you see that?
Srila Prabhupada founded over 100 Hare Krishna temples, schools, banks and restaurants, all while writing and publishing dozens of translations and commentaries on foundational Vaishnava scriptures.
I mean, this is nothing so short of superhuman. Did you ever try to write a book? I mean, most people when they write a book, they go away somewhere and just hide out, because it requires such regulation and concentration. So, but Prabhupada's schedule was always, he did keep the same schedule by his being beyond the bodily platform, but he was always traveling, and that's exhausting. So he traveled, he was exploding a movement, opening up so many centers. And then that's why he was always asking, the GBC especially, you please take over the management. If I have to think of what's going on in Bombay, which he did a lot during that whole saga with Mr. Nair, and everybody gave up at him in the end, then my mind's just, I can't concentrate. Every word has to be documented, Prabhupada said in his one letter. So, and we were too immature to relieve him of management. Prabhupada was managing right up to the end. Like, to hear the recordings. They were consulting him on different things. That's why he didn't finish, because he had to do everything. Didn't finish the Bhagavatam. Okay, so, in commentaries on foundational Vaishnava scriptures, simply amazing. I once wrote the introduction of the ISKCON book, BBT, and in one part of the offering, I just parodied, that verse in the second chapter of the Gita. Some look on the soul as amazing, some describe him as amazing. So I said, some look on Srila Prabhupada as amazing, some describe him as amazing, some hear of him as amazing, while others, even after hearing from him, cannot understand him at all. Because the only way we can really understand Prabhupada is to reciprocate with him through service. That's pariprashnena sevaya. So, Krishna is inconceivable, and so are the activities of the pure devotee. And I love this shot, because usually when you see Prabhupada sitting on the Vyasasana in LA, that crushed velvet or whatever it is, you see him looking right at you with a gong. But this one, I had never seen this before. It looks like he's looking up right at Krishna. So perhaps it's Vyasa Puja. And Prabhupada playing the gong at ISKCON Los Angeles, an ecstatic love of God. Was anybody in Chicago when he came for the Ratha Yatra for the first time in 74? He arrived early. By the time he came to the temple on Emerson then, it was Guru Puja time. So it was another Guru Puja. And he just, okay, it's time for Guru Puja. And that was right after his European tour, yeah. So there was Srila Prabhupada in person for Guru Puja. So, as happened everywhere, whenever Prabhupada came somewhere, it wasn't just the temple local devotees, it was people from all over the place. That's when the Radha Damodar buses came for their initiations. So, Prabhupada hopped on the Vyasasana and Guru Puja started. Now it was 74. By 74, there had been some dance steps coming in from Bengal. It wasn't just the Swami step, it wasn't just sedate. And some of the dancing was getting kind of wild. So, of course, when we would sing Guru Puja to Srila Prabhupada, he would sing too, to his Guru Maharaj. And he would really go internal. Now, the kirtan really started to cook. So, at one point when it was really cooking, Prabhupada opened his eyes, and what did he see? He saw us all boogieing. It wasn't just Bengal. It was like the Shingaling, the Boogaloo, the African twist, it was like... And he caught us, and he just looked at us. He just looked at us, and he put his finger up in the air. This is the power that Prabhupada exercised over us because we were so sold out. So Prabhupada puts his finger up in the air, and he drops his finger like this. It goes from pandemonium kirtan to pin drop frozen silence. Like we were like frozen tableaus. We were like in a nanosecond. It was surreal. It was like, and in that pregnant silence, Prabhupada gestures to this big painting of the Panchatattva behind us. And he says, dance like Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Because, they're all arms upraised. So chastened, Prabhupada lifted his finger again, and it was boom, we were animated again. But this time we were, we were very controlled, ecstatically controlled. I'll never forget that. It was just amazing. So, Srila Prabhupada is for everyone, and how is he for everyone this time? Shakti-avesh. Avatar. Okay. Avatars can also be jivas. Shakti-avesh. Like Srila Vyasadeva is Krishna's literary incarnation. He's super empowered to write the Vedas. Narada Muni. Wandering mendicant. He can go anywhere. Okay, so let me read this here. We're going to see, let's put this on the screen, first of all. And it's Prabhupada's description in CC of the Shakti-avesh avatar. Now you tell me, after you see it and hear it, what's particularly endearing about this description? How about Yogendra Prabhu?
Unless one is empowered by the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, one cannot spread the holy names of the Hare Krishna Mahamantra throughout the world. Persons who do so are empowered. Therefore, they are sometimes called Aveshya avatars, or empowered incarnations, for they are endowed with the power of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu.
Kali Kalera Dharma Krishna Nam Sankirtan Krishna Shakti Vina Nahi Tar Pravartan. Unless one is, this is a purport to that verse, unless you are especially empowered by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, thank you, you can't do what Prabhupada did. So, I found this particularly endearing. Why do you think?
He spread Krishna consciousness throughout the world.
Yeah, but he's saying that unless you're empowered, you can't do that. And what?
Saying he's empowered?
He's not saying it's him.
Yeah.
He's describing what he's himself, actually. But he's not like the other gurus, swamis, and yogis who are always saying, I'm the one, I'm the avatar. I'm God, Prabhupada
He's
again.
saying that about his disciples? He's saying that about his disciples?
No, he's just saying that if you want to be anybody, actually, if you want to be empowered, then you have to get the mercy of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. You have to surrender to the Lord's representative. You're just talking to how everybody can fulfill their true potential. And of course, that's what he did. His surrender to Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati's order was unprecedented, total, without consideration of he might die or whatever. He just did it, he just went. So, it's so wonderful when you see, what am I saying? Although Srila Prabhupada's activities were those of a Shakti Vaishnavatar, since he was absolutely transparent to Krishna, he never thought of or presented himself as such. Such a great soul is very rare. Okay. Now, let's finally get to our Prabhupada. Here's a transition slide. If Srila Prabhupada is for everyone, he is certainly for everyone in his ISKCON, his own Sangha, as we will now hear. So, there's my favorite. It's the image that brought me in one of Roger Siegel's shots in 1967. Okay, so what we're going to read here, this is the one that we saw from a previous lesson, from the first founder Acharya statement. We're going to see all the components of that statement, and you see how Prabhupada is really for everyone. So, Prabhu, your name?
John?
John, no.
Oh, Vedanta Krit.
Vedanta Krit. I don't know if we've met.
Yeah, many years ago.
Yeah? Where?
New Orleans.
Oh, okay.
You were brought it down.
Uh-huh.
I remember you loved sweet rice.
My Shiksha Guru. That's my Varga Pradarshika Guru, actually. That's what brought me in. That an easy journey. Vedanta Krit, can you read that?
ISKCON's founder Acharya. 1994, the DC Resolution in 35. The founder Acharya stated, Srila Prabhupada is the foundational Siksha Guru for all ISKCON devotees.
And again, there's more in that one, but I just put enough to get the idea for each one. And there's more.
Srila Prabhupada's instructions are the essential teachings for every ISKCON devotee.
Essential. It's like sometimes people say, but you know, there's so many books now, there's so many CDs, there's so many films. Guru Maharaj is doing this, Guru Maharaj is doing... That's great. Every generation is supposed to produce more literature and more everything. But the main course of the meal is Prabhupada's Vani. So the value of our, whatever we do in Lord Chaitanya's mission, is to be measured by how much it inspires everyone to return to the main course in the meal. That's Prabhupada's teachings. Okay, so here we go.
Srila Prabhupada's books are the embodiment of his teachings and should be accepted as the standard by all future generations of ISKCON.
Yeah, right. We don't live in a vacuum. We're going to hear so many things, both in print and in person. And that's fine. But we measure all of that against the touchstone. You know, touchstone actually literally means a stone for testing gold. Against the touchstone of Prabhupada's teachings. So if it's consistent with Prabhupada's teachings, if it's enhancing our understanding of Prabhupada's teachings, it has value. We have values. Otherwise, we don't need it.
Srila Prabhupada should be worshipped daily by every ISKCON member.
Daily, yeah, that's the Guru Puja for the founder, Acharya. Do you know how that started? I mentioned it came after the Mayapur festival, but it actually came in Bombay. Bhagavat. He said, so in April in Bombay, one morning, we had been greeting the deities, and everybody used to just accompany Prabhupada up to the altar for darshan, and we'd all offer flowers to the deities. And we did that one morning after the Mayapur festival. But then, this particular morning, Prabhupada made a beeline for the Vyasasana. He went straight to and he taught us a song to worship the Guru, Sri Guru Vandana. And it was Sri Guru Charana Padma. And then he made it the standard that this should be sung in all temples, in front of the deities, which is like, it's forbidden in Scripture to worship anybody before the deities. But Prabhupada, and we didn't really realize the full import, because he was the only guru we knew in his kind. He was everything, Shiksha, Diksha, founder of Acharya. But then now, as time has gone on, we see the significance of him instituting that to help keep ISKCON together, keep the mission together, his mood, like that. So every day, and then here is number E, or letter E.
Every spiritual master is responsible to guide his disciples to follow Srila Prabhupada's instruction.
Yeah, that's again how we have value, when we ground everybody in the founder Acharya's instructions. Again, the founder Acharya is like the sun. He wants us all to become like moons, not shooting stars. That's that Chanakya verse. So, yeah, but you never replace the sun. You just have more and more rings or generations of moons. Many moons, Giriraj Swami wrote that book. Many moons. Reflecting Prabhupada's sun-like life, teachings, mood and mission. Okay, let's see. Oh, yeah, there's the collage. Alright. To connect with your Srila Prabhupada. This is where we start to... Okay, well, before I do... I was a little premature. Let me just say one more thing. Now, despite more... So this was the first Founder Acharya resolution, all the parts. Despite more Founder Acharya resolutions since then, on the whole, we've been slow to understand that our relationship with our Founder Acharya is foundational. I gotta correct that. Is foundational and pivotal. The relationship around which all others turn. On this point, we don't need more legislation. We need more education. So let's go. Yeah. So, connect with your Srila Prabhupada. Again, I say here, Srila Prabhupada as Krishna's transcendental Renaissance man. Of course, you're all looking at this, right? Jai Talavana. And that building burned down or something?
Yes.
Oh my God. Could have been a shrine. Anyway.
Going to be.
Huh?
It will be.
It will be. Okay. And here, where I always thought Prabhupada was, he's in France. It looked like New Talavana to me. But he was, as I said, he was stopping to answer the call of nature, and then they had a picnic too afterwards. This photo collage shows, okay, so the caption I read is Srila Prabhupada is Krishna's transcendental Renaissance man. So who's the archetype of the Renaissance man in secular history? Michelangelo, more Da Vinci, right? Because he had this intelligence that gave us, the Mona Lisa, and he also gave us the blueprints to the helicopter. It's not often you find the fine artist and the scientist in the same body. He has many facets, and so Prabhupada's like that too. Expert in so many ways. This photo collage shows some, not all, but some of the many sides of Srila Prabhupada's greatness. From the top left, okay, here we go. As the Pine call it, even though he's just stopping on the way to New Mayapur. He was on his way to New Mayapur, on the French farm. There's Prabhupada, I say, the plain living pioneer. Plain living and high thinking. Where did Prabhupada get that phrase? I'll give you a hint. He went to Scottish Churches College, where his Scottish fathers were his teachers. So he knew a lot of Western literature. You hear him quote. So some poet he read.
What?
Huh?
Was it Wadsworth?
Who?
Wadsworth?
Longfellow.
Longfellow.
Yeah, Henry Wadsworth. Yeah, you're right. Who wrote a poem back in 1803, and it starts like this. Plain living and high thinking are no more. Because Longfellow was lamenting the encroaching industrial revolution. I mean, he could scarcely imagine what's gone on since then. Right? Yeah. So, plain living and high thinking. And so, I think most of you know where Prabhupada is here. No? San Francisco, that's true. More?
Monkey Hill?
Oh?
Monkey Hill.
Monkey Hill, Hippie Hill. The same thing, right? Yeah. Yeah, Golden Gate Park, Hippie Hill. Yeah, this person became a sannyasi. Who was that, you know? Subal. There's a Dutch boy haircut there. This little boy is familiar, but I don't know. Yeah, there's Prabhupada playing that first drum Narayan Maharaj mailed to San Francisco, and Prabhupada gave the first drum lesson to Mukunda, Prabhu at the time. So there's Prabhupada, Sankirtan Party leader. Prabhupada in the 60s was talking about a world Sankirtan party. He wanted to take a group of devotees around the world and chant Hare Krishna. The movement got so big that he just did it through his representatives. And Aviram Prabhu once wrote a letter to Prabhupada saying he wanted to sail around the world and put in all the different major ports. And Prabhupada said, yes, do it. So the World Sankirtan Party leader, and what do I say here? Vaishnavi Empower. There's a younger edition of Malati, San Francisco. So you hear Malati say, and others who were there at the time too, Shyam Sundar, Upendra. So we had this big bonfire kirtan at the beach, and we roasted potatoes, and then we had a big kirtan, and then at the end of the kirtan, Prabhupada during the Prema Dhvani prayers, all glories to the Pacific Ocean. And they thought that was so cool that Swamiji was glorifying the Pacific Ocean, their favorite place to surf in. Because what does Krishna say in the Gita? Sarasam asmi savara means
bodies of water in the ocean.
Yeah, so Prabhupada's seeing the Pacific as Krishna's, a little spark of Krishna's opulence. He's not just, saying it for no reason, but he's seeing it in relationship to Krishna. And so, yes, as we know, Prabhupada didn't limit the ladies who came to him to traditional Vedic roles, but he just, whatever they had, as they found them, he encouraged them. Malati is very good at getting things done. At one point in her life, she was practically managing the whole Calcutta temple, even though she didn't have the title. So that's Prabhupada. He's the same person, the same founder Acharya, who day and night is exalting Vedic values, Vedic knowledge above the modern way. He's not limited to the way things have always been done in India. So he empowered the ladies to be all they can be. And in one CC Adi Leela purport, they're as good as their brothers because they're preaching Sankirtan mission. We still have a ways to realize that, but that's Prabhupada. That's our founder Acharya. Okay, so Vaishnavi Empower. How about on the bottom left, Prasadam Master? I mean, nobody could cook like Prabhupada. And how did Prabhupada say he learned how to cook?
Watching his mother.
Watching his mother and watching who else? The Wallas on the street.
Oh.
He would just be there, and just observe them, how they did it, and then he just copied them. Yeah, he's a good observer. Let's see here. This is, I say, literary fountain. You know how this shot came? You ever see a ISKCON movie called Brilliant as the Sun?
Yeah.
Okay, it's an old, it's got to be, I think it was 76 or something. It's how the books were produced. And it was based on a verse from the first canon. Anybody know it's Brilliant as the Sun? Krishna Svadhama Bhagate. This Bhagavat Purana is as brilliant as the sun, and it has arisen just after the departure of Lord Krishna to his own abode, accompanied by religion, knowledge, and so forth. Those who have lost their vision, due to the dense darkness of ignorance, shall get light from this Purana. So Yadavar Prabhu approached Prabhupada with the idea of making a short film, it was only about 20 minutes, I think, of how his books were produced. So it all started with Prabhupada dictating. So Prabhupada was very tolerant. This is his quarters in LA. He let Yadavar set up the cameras, at midnight, or 1 o'clock in the morning. And he just, if you've seen the movie, he's caught Prabhupada dictating. And then the whole idea was to trace the book from the time of dictation all the way through production, us at the BBT, and then out onto the street. And you see the distributor, it was Gopa Vrindapal playing the distributor, and a devotee named Kuvera playing the guy on the street. with a suit and tie, who got a book. And then he comes to the temple, and then he joins, and then he goes out and distributes books. So, but at some point in the shooting, you see there's the shot there, this is a still from the movie. Prabhupada said enough, because the lights were too bright, it was disturbing his whole... He let him do it enough for the movie, then he said, okay, that's it. Yeah, okay. And then, deity installer. Prabhupada boldly, fearlessly installed deities all over the world, whereas in the Abrahamic religions, Judaism, Christianity, Islam, it's considered idol worship. It's considered heresy, blasphemy. But Prabhupada, as we said, Lord Jagannath snuck in the Haight-Ashbury. That's where he first appeared in a form like that. And where's Prabhupada there? Manor, Janmashtami, 1973. Wrote Radha, Sri Sri Radha Gokulananda. Prabhupada's leaping, everybody's leaping. Okay, and much more. A true transcendental Renaissance man. Now, to connect with Srila Prabhupada is to connect with one or more of his magnanimous aspects. Like I mentioned, nobody has all of Prabhupada's mercy. It is too much. We tend to, take an aspect or two. In the next slide, we'll see and hear how we can all connect with Srila Prabhupada in a foundational way. So it's true, Prabhupada has many sides, but we can all connect with him through sound. And now I'll set this up by saying that on August 15, 1968, Prabhupada was in Montreal. He was back there because sometimes he would have visa problems. He finally got residency, but he went back to that temple on Park Avenue, the former bowling alley. I went up there because I was presenting this, and I saw where they used to live. It's still like that. I mean, it's changed, but you can see how it had been a bowling alley. And Wendy Weiser, that was Minnie's birth name, had been with the San Francisco devotees. She was looking for, the counterculture. And then she traveled with the devotees who were going to London in '68, the three Grihastha couples. Gurudas and Jamuna, Shyamsundar Malati, and Mukunda and Janaki. And so she went with them up to Montreal to meet Prabhupada, because she never met him. And the devotees were recommending her for initiation, very sincere, intelligent. So on August 15th, she was initiated as Rukmini, and it's on tape, it's really sweet. And I reminded her this summer, this is your 50th anniversary. I forgot, thank you so much. So, and then I sent her the tape, the little segment, and so it was really sweet. And then on the 18th of August, Prabhupada's giving Bhagavatam class, first canto, and then there's question and answer. And she says that when Prabhupada's not there, she feels very distant from him, and lonely, and far away, and bereft, and all that. So, without saying Vani and Vapu, Prabhupada was spoon-feeding us through English. He said, physical and vibration. Prabhupada gave her an answer that you're going to hear right now. It's not the best recording, but it's okay. You'll see the words. And he gives an analogy that's really brilliant of how you can be close to Krishna and Guru through vibration. Here we go. Let's see if it works.
That you should not think. There are two conceptions, the physical conception and the vibration conception. The physical conception is temporary, and the vibration conception is eternal. Just like we are enjoying or we are relishing the vibration of Krishna's teachings. So by vibration he is present. As soon as we chant Hare Krishna or chant Bhagavad Gita or Bhagavad, so he is present immediately by vibration. So we should give more stress on the sound vibration, either of Krishna or of the spiritual master, then we'll feel happy and no separation.
So I really like that, because when I was a brahmachari, even though I was out of control, I knew that if I was going to make it, I had to do something. I had to learn the Bhagavad Gita. So from 1972 to 1978, I memorized the Gita. And the way I did it was, I had index cards, and I would write a verse, tuck it in my kurta pocket. Oh, we didn't have kurtas, I didn't have kurta, anyway, shirt pocket. And then I would learn new verses, and then I would review them at the end of the week. And it was a combination of reviewing old verses and plowing ahead with the new verses. So I got really attached to Krishna and the Gita. And so when I heard this tape, it really resonated with me, because I could feel Krishna's presence just by memorizing what he was saying. And then, and so the same thing with the Guru. So we're going to hear very powerfully in the next slide or two, a few slides, how we can be really intimate and present through vibration. It's not just some, wishful thinking or mental concoction. Okay, let's go to... So the first and foremost way we can all connect with Srila Prabhupada is by becoming keen students of his spoken and written word. Regular attentive hearing from our founder Acharya, especially while serving with his serious and sincere followers, grounds us in the foundational relationship that will sustain and enrich all others. Now here, okay, it is coming right up. Here are two legendary devotees who did just that. Okay. So on the left, and they both joined it. Isn't it interesting that both Jamuna and Jayananda Prabhu joined at the same time, early 67, in the same place, San Francisco. And their whole life and soul was hearing from Srila Prabhupada. That's what empowered them to do their amazing service. So let's, on the left, there's Jayananda. They're both walking with Prabhupada there in San Francisco. Did anybody ever meet Jayananda? Did you meet? Okay. So you knew, where did you meet him?
I met him in San Francisco in 1970, on Christmas Day.
Oh, wow. Okay.
He gave me a cushion. And he said, my spiritual master said, I'm a candidate for being perfect. Becoming a perfect person. Or something like that. Or attaining perfection. And then he said, I think you will also.
See how empowering, how encouraging that is? Yeah.
We have a devotee in New Orleans that lived with Jayananda in San Francisco.
Vishok?
No, his name is Tapan Mishra.
Tapan. Tapan Mishra, yeah. I think I met him.
I think it must have been like 1971 or 72.
Well, lived with Jayananda in San Francisco.
Yeah, I don't know if they had an apartment together, but he was working on the carts with Jayananda, and that was his main connection there at the temple.
Yeah. Somebody else?
He first engaged our Guru Maharaj Jayapataka Swami in building the Rath cart, and he shaved him up also for the first time.
Wow. In 1970 or 69, huh?
69.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, I got that. So to meet Jayananda was to meet, he was a big, strong person. Jim Core, he'd been a graduate of Ohio State, mechanical engineering. And if you know the story, he was disappointed in life. Jayananda would say, I didn't fit in with the in crowd. He wasn't a frat boy at Ohio State, right? And he was a sincere seeker of the meaning of life. And he was so disappointed, he just to maintain himself, he had taken to driving a cab, and he would say things like, "My only solace was going buying some ice cream." Right? And then he was getting suicidal. He didn't see any meaning to life, and he could see through all the hypocrisy and everybody cutting a profile. So he saw in the San Francisco Chronicle, or maybe it was the Herald Examiner, an ad that Swami Bhaktivedanta is having classes over in the Hague. So he thought, oh, let me try, let me see. And he went, and immediately it was like two great souls meeting. Jayananda just took right to it. And he was the only guy who was working, so he was supporting the temple through his taxi driving. He was a little older. He was like in his late 20s instead of the early 20s or the teens or the mid-20s. So he was more mature. So I never met Jayananda until the end, until he came to LA to pass away, and his swan song, so to speak, was helping the LA temple build their carts for their first Rath Yatra in 77. So he had these big hands, each finger was like a tool, And anyway, what do I say here? To meet Jayananda was to meet a big, strong, humble worker in Srila Prabhupada's mission. Prabhupada would talk about, be a silent worker, don't advertise yourself. Srila Prabhupada's incredible strength and humility came through in Jayananda's character and behavior. That's an aspect of Prabhupada. Prabhupada was such incredibly strong. Like Balabhadra Prabhu, ISKCON, when he joined in Hawaii, he came off the beach as a surfer, and right away somebody engaged him, maybe Govinda Dasi, "Can you massage Prabhupada?" So he didn't know how to massage, but he was a big, strong guy. So Balabhadra said, no matter how much I pushed on Prabhupada, I couldn't move him. He was like the rock of Gibraltar. But he had skin like velvet, soft skin, but inside he was just like so strong. And he was stunned. It was like he never came upon somebody like that, because he was a big dude, Balabhadra. Anyway, so that's what it was like to meet Jayananda. Prabhupada the worker, Prabhupada's humility, so qualified but never advertised himself. Now to meet Jamuna was to meet a queen of devotion. Did you ever meet Jamuna? Anybody? No? I didn't. I never met her until years after Prabhupada disappeared. I met her in South India, on a mountain. We were invited by Abhiram to see if we could have an international community for Westerners on a remote mountain. And I knew she was coming. I was with my family, my wife and little daughter. So we heard that Jamuna and Dinatarine were coming. So that morning, we were cleaning our bungalow. Well, we had a mountain ashram and we had an ashram in the village, Kolua. You know Kolua? Karnataka? Okay. So it was called Garuda Guha. So at one point in the morning, late morning, we heard somebody coming up the path, footfalls coming up the path. And then I heard a voice. And the voice was singing. And the voice was singing, Govindam. I said, Katyani, I know that voice. That's, I ran out and I said, Mother Jamuna. And she said, Father Suresvara. It was so funny. Because in one witty response, she had captured, in other words, she could no more relate to Mother Jamuna than I could to Father Suresvara. I never heard that, Father Suresvara. And we just bonded instantly. We just laughed, and then we were talking. But anyway, the most beautiful thing of the whole visit I had that time was, it was Christmas Eve. Christmas is big in South India. A lot of, because Saint Anthony?
Saint Thomas.
Saint Thomas. He was there since like the 2nd century or something. So you get a lot of Indian Christians, and therefore there's more meat eating down there, there's more alcohol, but anyway, Christmas Eve, it was a Kadashi. So Jamuna announces, I'm going to cook an Ekadashi feast and offer this to Srila Prabhupada. Now, there wasn't much victuals, there wasn't much foodstuffs available in the little village, but she scared up whatever she could while we were fixing a big well. It was like an all-day affair fixing a well. So Jamuna, on this veranda outside the house, she whipped up this Ekadashi feast. And Dina Tarane's job, she had a stick and she was keeping away the monkeys. That was her job. So the day wore on, we finally got the well fixed. Twilight, night was falling. Jamuna said, okay, come up now, I just offered the feast to Srila Prabhupada. So she insisted on lighting candles and sitting us all down and serving us from her own hand the feast she had cooked for Prabhupada and regaling us with these amazing Prabhupada stories. Just stuff I had never heard. So, and the taste of the prasad was just out of this world. So Jamuna, the consummate cook, that's certainly an aspect of Srila Prabhupada. Music, when I visited her in Sharanagati, anybody ever go to Sharanagati when she was there? Okay.
No, not when she was there.
No, okay. You did?
No, no.
Oh, okay. So she had a morning program, and then this other place had a morning program. So her place was always packed. And I was there in 2009 or 2010, I think. It must have been 2009. But when I got to Sharanagati, unfortunately, she and Gina were sick. The flu was going around. And then finally they got better, and not many people know it. So myself and the husband of Yadavar's oldest daughter, what's her name? Amrita, became Rasamrita, right? I think that's her name. Anyway, he was just, and his name is Sham. Shama, I forget. So Sham and I went to Dina and Jamuna's house, and they were having their first morning program since being sick. So I walked in, and I was just, they had a big Amish cook stove, which was, they cooked down and also they heated the house with. They had a rammed earth house, one of these natural houses they built with their own hands. And so it was time for Mangalarti. Shri Radha Ban Bihari, the forest enjoyers. And so Dina was she was getting set to blow the conch and do the arti. So I walk in, and I was expecting to hear Jamuna sing Mangal Arti. So she said, Suresvara, I want you to sing. And I thought, oh no, I want to hear Jamuna to sing. I said, okay, but I'll only sing if you have the only instrument I play. I didn't think she would have it, but she had it. It's this mini tampura, not a big gourd tampura, but a mini version. It's like a little long rectangle with tightly wound strings. And she had one. She had so many instruments, like a museum of instruments. You know? And she was playing this ancient recorder. You know? So I thought, oh no, I gotta sing. I can't even sing. I'm so overwhelmed with this place. And so I started singing. But my voice would always choke. And every time my voice choked, I just turned toward her and she would look at me as if to say, come on, go on dear, you can do it. If you know Jamuna, she was very motherly and she was a senior devotee. Somehow I got through it. Anyway, I have more Jamuna stories, but I am going to tell you one more this time. So, to meet Jamuna was to meet a queen of devotion, expressed especially through her cooking, music, and exquisite deity worship, which Prabhupada trained her with Prabhupada's favorite deities, Radharama and Ishwar, after that installation. Srila Prabhupada, the cultural conqueror, came through in Jamuna's character and behavior. Different as they were, Jayananda and Jamuna shared a deep love of hearing from Srila Prabhupada. By developing a similar love, a unique aspect of Srila Prabhupada's glories will also manifest through us. So this relates to Varnashram. If we really get to know ourselves in devotional service, and we really, just like people say, well, how can you know your Varna? So they have this thing that I use from self-help, these motivational speakers. they have this thing called a passion test. What's your passion? What's that activity, or we would say, what's that service doing which you forget time? You just go into trance. Hopefully not too far into trance, because you've got to maybe do the offering or distribute the book or whatever, or plow the field. So that's kind of a hint, of the Varna. It's so you that you're there. You're in the zone, as they say, right? You're in the Krishna zone. Yeah. So Jamuna, her life and soul, is hearing from Prabhupada. Did you ever hear her story? She tells it in her books. Dina tells it in the books. Of how Jamuna realized that to become more intimate with Prabhupada, she was going to have to cultivate vipralamba, service and separation, and realized that Vani was more important than Vapu, even though she had a lot of Vapu. Does anybody know the story? It happened at Kumbh Mela, 71.
She was going to sit up front like she usually did, and the new sannyasi told her she couldn't do that. Right. And so she asked Prabhupada about it, and he was a little bit sad that things had come, grown up like that. But he said, no, well then you can sit far, but you're still near, or something like that.
Well, yeah, that was a quick one, but that's... Yeah, they had these tents, right? And Prabhupada had his tent, and they had the tent for Prabhupada's presentations. And so Prabhupada was going to come in and give a big talk, and they were all ready. So Jamuna was front and center, right in front of where Prabhupada would speak, like she always was, in 518 Frederick Street, way back in the Heath days. So just before Prabhupada comes out, a nouveau Swami, an American Swami, says, "Psst, Jamuna, you see where the Indian ladies are sitting? A little behind and to the side. You should sit there." So Jamuna was thinking, she told this story in Mayapur in the community hall. I was thinking, what's this? I always sit right in front of Prabhupada. What's he talking about? So, but she was curious, so she's, okay, let me see what this is all about. So she goes a little behind and to the side. Prabhupada comes out, gives this tremendous talk, great questions, brings down the house. And then the devotees, everybody disperses, and the devotees do their chores to get ready for some next event. Meanwhile, Prabhupada's sitting in his tent, and the tent is such that it's about a foot off the ground, where he's chanting japa, but he can see the devotees going by the bottom of their sari and dhoti. He knows who's who. As they're scurrying past his tent. And then she starts scurrying past his tent. And then as she's scurrying past the tent, she hears, Jamna. That's how Prabhupada said her name. Jamna, in Bengali. The Y became the J. Jamna. Yes, and she goes in, pays her obeisances. Yes, Srila Prabhupada? So, you do not like to hear me anymore? This was too much. Jamuna just burst out sobbing. And she just, because of what happened. And then she tells the story. And then she said, what should I do? And Prabhupada just put his head down, didn't say a word. And then finally he said, yes, this is India. It's not the hate anymore. It's not the little family in 518 Frederick Street. So, in other words, Jamuna realized there's time, country, there's different etiquettes in different places. And then you know what she asked? Srila Prabhupada, how many times were you with your Guru Maharaj, meaning physically? And then Prabhupada confirmed, 5 or 6 times. But they were very intimate times. Because, as I mentioned, Srila Saraswati Thakur liked to confide in Abhay Charana Arvinda. And then he said, for Jamuna's benefit, this is great, he said, Guru Maharaj told me that those who always wanted to be with him physically were like mosquitoes, simply sucking blood. They wanted to be seen with the guru, you know. So then when Jamuna realized, Prabhupada is telling me how to be intimate with him in separation, in Vani. And she got it. So when Prabhupada did leave this world, she didn't fall apart. Whereas I got to know Guru Das later, who was her husband, and he had so much vapu. And when Prabhupada, and Guru Das admitted to me, as I asked him, I got to know him during the centennial year. And I said, it must have been really hard, Guru Das, when Prabhupada left, because you had so much physical association. He said, yeah, I couldn't take it. And now he understands that, and he's more learning how to serve in separation. But Jamuna had, as early as 71, had been cultivating that, and she had a lot more vapu after that, as being Prabhupada's personal cook at Radha Damodar during the Nectar Devotion. She and Guru Das were spearheaded the launch of the Krishna Balaram Mandir, which practically killed them. But it's the things that don't kill you that make you strong, right? So Jamuna, when you met Jamuna, it was like you were meeting Prabhupada's aspect of the aristocratic, you know, as the devotees always say how aristocratic Prabhupada was too, along with being the military field commander. That's who you were meeting. You were meeting that side of Prabhupada, and it was very inspiring. So again, similarly, we can connect with Prabhupada through our nature and through mentors who have that transparency to Prabhupada on that side, and we can inspire others also. So different as they were, Jayananda and Jamuna shared a deep love of hearing from Srila Prabhupada, which is the basic way to connect. By developing a similar love, a unique aspect of Prabhupada's glories will also manifest through us. We've all been sharing Krishna consciousness with somebody, and then we find ourselves saying things we don't even know where it came from, but it was just the right stuff to say. And so it's Prabhupada and Krishna's mercy. Somehow we've connected with them so well in that way. And we become instruments. Like Prabhupada said, Nacho, Nacho, Prabhu. Make me dance, or maybe dance as you like. Okay, in that connection, let's pick a extraordinary. Connect by finding and making your best contribution to our founder Acharya's mission. And this is in a purport. Srila Prabhupada emphasized that helping the spiritual master serve Krishna's mission is the best way to become dear to the Lord. Okay, so how about John? Want to read?
When one becomes serious to follow the mission of the spiritual master, his resolution is
amounts to
seeing the Supreme Personality of Godhead.
Yeah, that's in the purport. And listen to this. At the end of the purport, Prabhupada writes, quote, in conclusion, if a disciple is very serious to execute the mission of the spiritual master, he immediately associates with the Supreme Personality of Godhead. This is the only secret of success in seeing the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And then Prabhupada can't resist here. He says, instead of being eager to see the Lord in some bush of Vrindavan, taking a swipe at the Sahajas, right? While at the same time engaging in sense gratification, if one instead sticks to the principle of following the words of the spiritual master, he will see the Supreme Lord without difficulty. Once I was shopping in Lower Bazaar, and then a bizarre sight came down the street. It was some old men dressed as gopis, dancing and exhibiting gestures really grotesquely, really grotesque. And there was even older sadhu, white beard, just hitting a drum. Boom, boom, boom. And these guys are, working out like they're gopis or something, and just grotesque. So I turned to the shopkeeper and I said, Gopi Bhav? And he got a funny look at his face. And he said, maybe a little cracked. Like he'd seen it all before, right? People come down the street. Okay, And now Prabhupada said this in the second recorded Gita class, 16th November 1966, at the storefront, 26. And Prabhupada said, quote, "My Guru Maharaj used to say that don't try to see God, but you work in such a way that God will see you." Prabhupada always gives these concrete analogies. He said, if you work for the Ford Motor Company and you're a sincere worker on the line and you do your work and you become known as being very steady and very hardworking, one day Mr. Ford may come down to you on the line and give you a gold watch. That's the idea. If we're sincere, and Krishna will be attracted to that devotion, just like the Brahmin, South Indian Brahmin who burned his finger with the sweet rice. His meditation was so intense, it was so real, that his finger actually burned. And then Vishnu smiled and he came down and we sent the Vishnu Dutas to come and bring him home on an airplane. It's a descending process. We should never try to ascend on our own power. Now near the end of our founder Acharya lessons, we may still wonder, does developing our foundational relationship with Srila Prabhupada mean we are somehow jumping over our Diksha and Shiksha gurus? It's not a monkey, believe it or not. I guess it's a cousin. Anybody know what creature that is? Native to Madagascar.
Lemur.
Yes, it's a lemur. Lemur. It rhymes with femur. I usually have to give the hint. It rhymes with a bone in your leg. But you got it. He was the best jumper on Google Images, so he got to be in the Founder Acharya series. Now, here's the context. In the early 1970s, as more devotees started to visit India, some were fascinated by Gaudiya Math books available in English, especially those of Srila Bhaktivinoda and Srila Bhaktisiddhanta. So they asked Srila Prabhupada if they could read them. Let's listen to Prabhupada's response. Now Prabhupada, he would answer that question differently to different people, but here's how Prabhupada answered the question in Los Angeles in 1973.
You cannot imagine what my spiritual master said. Or even if you read some books, you cannot understand unless you understand it from me. This is called Prabhupada. You cannot jump over to the superior guru, neglecting the next Acharya, immediate next Acharya.
Now this was really misused in his own Acharya era, but let's hear more. Since during his brief time with us, Srila Prabhupada was the only bona fide guru we knew, we did not deeply understand his unique position as our founder Acharya. After Srila Prabhupada's disappearance, ISKCON's new gurus sometimes confused following him with imitating him, and the consequences were devastating. Over time, we've come to realize that a prime duty of our Shiksha and Diksha gurus is to deepen, enhance, and enrich our foundational relationship with Srila Prabhupada. So, you see what Prabhupada says here? You cannot jump over to the superior guru, neglecting the next Acharya, immediate next Acharya. If, quote, no jumping over means no neglecting one's, quote, immediate next Acharya, which is what we have today, right? It's multiple guru culture. How much more does that apply to Srila Prabhupada, our foundational Acharya, from whom we derive our core identity, and through whom we see all teachers and teachings. So again, we're going to hear so many things from so many holy men, sadhus, gurus, different sanghas, different Gaudiya sanghas. But as Bhaktivinoda Thakur said in Harinama Chintamani, the Adyacharya, the founder Acharya, is the Guru Shiromani. He's the topmost crown jewel of the spiritual masters, against whom we measure all teachers and teachings. If anybody says anything contrary to Prabhupada's mood, mission, teachings, life, we don't need it. And I've been to other ashrams, say in Gaudiya Sanghas, and it's very nice, but Prabhupada isn't the measure of all the teachings. He's one of the many teachers. He's not accepted as foundational, because for those people, he's not. It's their other Gaudiya Guru Dev. That's fine, you can do that. But if we want to advance in Prabhupada's ISKCON Sangha, we put him in the center. Okay, let's see here. So as we get to know ourselves in relation to Srila Prabhupada, with a cool head, we will be able to aspire for Diksha and Shiksha Gurus who can help us make our best contribution to his mission. That's who we want as our Gurus. People for whom Prabhupada is foundational and who can help us come closer to Prabhupada. The more deeply we connect with Srila Prabhupada, the more responsibility we have to pass on his unique legacy to others. So, this is my favorite quote coming up of how to imbibe and impart Srila Prabhupada's legacy. It's a fine line how to do it. We don't want to think that we're better than Prabhupada, but we want to properly represent him. So this appears in 1st Canto, 4th chapter, the appearance of Narada, first text. And let's see here. Yeah, okay. Who would like to read this? Everyone?
Personal realization does not mean that one should, out of vanity, attempt to show one's own learning by trying to surpass the previous Acharya. He must have full confidence in the previous Acharya, and at the same time, he must realize the subject matter so nicely that he can present the matter for the particular circumstances in a suitable manner. The original purpose of the text must be maintained.
This is Prabhupada's original italics. He's emphasized this in his text.
No obscure meaning should be screwed out of it, yet it should be presented in an interesting manner for the understanding of the audience. This is called realization.
This is called realization. Just like Prabhupada would say sometimes, if I have any credit, it's that I have not changed anything. What did he mean? He didn't change any principles. But my Lord, he was always repackaging Krishna consciousness, right, according to the audience. I mean, the way he presented was nothing externally like the way Srila Bhaktisiddhanta did it. Because Prabhupada knew that. He knew that it's, what did he call it? Old wine in new bottles. You have to always put the eternal message in a different face. You have to put a different face on it to reach the people where they live. We're seeing that especially like in Tucson. We have new, younger devotees who are really good at presenting Krishna consciousness online. Through graphics and through, they know what reaches that young millennial mind. Whereas us, maybe we're not so good at that. We're kind of out of touch with that. So this is really important that we do it like that. We have complete faith in Prabhupada's presentation, but to represent means to represent, to present it all over again for a new audience. So maybe someone like me, I can impart the principles, but I might tell, okay, now you do it like we have a strong presence at the University of Arizona. Now you folks go there, twice a week they go there, Tuesday and Friday, and figure out how to keep that essence, but grab them, grab their consciousness, their attention. And they do that, they're really good. Okay, so I think, we're at the end here. I make an observation. I already told you this, but whenever younger devotees, let's see. Okay, so the more we immerse ourselves in our founder Acharya's life, teachings, mood, and mission, the more we will understand how to be both faithful and fresh as we represent him, present him all over again. amid ever-changing times, places, and people. Srila Prabhupada wants us all to carry his legacy and become regular gurus, not to imitate or replace him, but to follow in his footsteps. Observation. Whenever younger devotees say they can't imagine what ISKCON will be like after the last Prabhupada disciple, that endangered species, leaves the planet, I become more convinced how important it is for all generations of devotees to understand our foundational identity as Prabhupada Anugas, Prabhupada followers, imbibe his unique legacy, and impart it to others. Okay, and now I owe a great debt to His Grace Ravindra Swarup Prabhu for providing the material for the last few slides, because at the end of that book, Srila Prabhupada, the founder Acharya, that the GBC published back in 2014, the way Ravindra ends it is, he gives, it's like a bullet points, he gives benefits of understanding Srila Prabhupada's position, actual position. So that's what this is, and I guess we'll take turns reading it. How are we doing? Oop. Time's up. All right, how about Deva Rishi Prabhu? Yeah. Oh, your voice? Oh, okay. So, who else would like to read? Yes.
Generation after, oh.
Krishna Ashray, right?
Right.
Okay, I'm going to get it before I leave.
Krishna Ashray. Benefits of deeply understanding Srila Prabhupada's position. Generation after generation will be able to receive the special mercy offered by Srila Prabhupada, and the path back to Godhead he opened will be ever increasingly traveled.
Special mercy. Again, we're not Hare Krishna Southern Baptists. I mean, we don't say Prabhupada's the way, the light, the truth, no one cometh unto Krishna but by Srila Prabhupada. We don't say that. But we do say, objectively, look at what Prabhupada did and look at all the facility Prabhupada's offering us to go back to God. He created a whole society. Look at this place. I mean, everything is built on the inspiration from His divine grace. So the path back to God that He opened will become ever increasingly traveled. Through all the literature and the festivals, I mean, Temple of the Vedic Planetarium, the ultimate synthesis of science and religion. I mean, Prabhupada's vision for preaching, because he was Lord Chaitanya's Senapati Bhakta, his military field commander, and because he was Lord Krishna's mantra upasaka, the one who spread Nam all over the world, his vision was so complete and all-encompassing. So why not encourage people to come to Prabhupada Sangha, right? Okay, what Krishna Ashram, why don't you keep reading?
Srila Prabhupada's active presence will secure the unity and integrity of ISKCON, strengthening both the GBC and Guru-disciple bonds.
This is our central challenge, because it was the vision of Bhaktivinoda Thakur that there be a GBC, because the Thakur could see that to do this all over the world, as Mahaprabhu had predicted centuries earlier, Prithiviti Achiyata Nagaradi Gram, in every town and villages, as many towns and villages as there are on the surface of the earth, my holy name will be preached, wasn't happening because of all the upper sampradayas. So the Thakur, it's going to take a whole, a worldwide sangha of many gurus, many God families, but they are going to have to be supervised by a governing body to make sure that nobody goes off the deep end. And so, so we need strong GBC, we need strong guru-disciple relationships, and that shouldn't be clashing. Sometimes they have. That's why this whole thing of parallel lines of authority, and who do you follow when your TP says one thing and then your guru says another. Out of our shared supreme allegiance to Srila Prabhupada, that we cooperate, we can have that. We can have strong guru-disciple relationships. We can have strong management. But we can only have that if we find our foundational identity with the founder Acharya. He's the unity amidst the diversity. Okay, Prabhu, keep going.
By taking full shelter of Srila Prabhupada, as Shiksha Guru in his Bani manifestation, all teachers in ISKCON on various levels of advancement will be able to authentically convey Srila Prabhupada's real teachings, thus giving proper guidance, shelter, and protection to all.
When I met Indradimna Swami in Simferopol, in the Crimea, that was the year before the Russians invaded, 2 years. His disciples were worshipping him. It was his Vyas Puja, actually. And then he looked at me and he said, "This is embarrassing, Prabhu. You're here. But what can I do? We have to give shelter to these people. Have you been to Russia?" And I had not been to Russia yet. He said, "Come to Russia. It's exploding. It's even more than the 60s in America in the 70s. It's too much. We can't handle it all." And then when I went there in 2014, I went to Moscow and I went to St. Petersburg and I went to Kazan. You know where Kazan is? Near the Volga. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I could see that as great as these people were, as hungry as these devotees were, their main challenge was there's not enough people, older devotees, to guide them. And when you're not guided properly, no matter how sincere you are, you can easily just twist the teachings around your material desires, start making things up, and just have a weird kind of Twilight Zone version of Krishna consciousness. So by taking full shelter, there's the key word, of Prabhupada's shiksha in his Vani manifestation, the more we really do take shelter of Prabhupada's books and his letter, the whole thing, under the guidance of senior devotees, they don't have that. I mean, there's so many people. But, what's going on in ISKCON Vladivostok is totally different from what's going on in ISKCON Moscow. I mentioned Vladivostok because I have a friend from there, and he's saying, we just don't have enough. We only have one GBC and he comes once every year or two. Otherwise it's a bunch of beginners fighting, because that's what we do. We don't understand, we just sort of fight over what we need guidance. So, that's what's needed. So many more teachers, gurus. And with Prabhupada's Vani being the supreme center, thus giving proper guidance, shelter, and protection to all. Okay?
ISKCON's teaching will remain consistent over space and time.
So you're reading, what are you reading there?
Your notes.
I know, okay, good. Consistent, yeah. Sakale ne nahamata. Why did Krishna speak the Gita to Arjuna? Because over time things tend to get, what's that word they use? Entropy. The tendency of things to go from a state of wholeness to disintegration. That's what time does. Kala kalayatamaha. Among subduers I am time. Time I am, destroyer of the worlds. So, but it's not that with every generation everything's supposed to get more and more spaced out and distant from Prabhupada. That's what I saw, and that's why I in my mind to do this. But but everything will be internally at least consistent. Even as externally everything changes, there will be the spirit of Prabhupada's, his mood, his spirit, will remain consistent amidst the different applications. And
Prabhupada's realized knowledge, endowing him with the specific potency to spread Krishna consciousness, will not only
be preserved.
It will be not only preserved, but also developed.
Yeah, there's so many things that Prabhupada said in Vani that hasn't even manifested yet, especially Varnashram. Yeah, there's a whole world waiting to be developed. It's almost like, he did say 50% of his mission hadn't been done. So even if you take that, it's like what Prabhupada had trying to manifest was just like the top, we say the top of the iceberg, but it might be the top of the volcano and then half is underneath. So there's so much to be manifested. Okay, and
his books will remain central to us, but they contain insights and directions that await future development to be realized.
Same idea. Huh?
Okay.
Oh, and then there's one more.
Yeah. Srila Prabhupada's eyes will always remain the lens through which all future generations see our predecessor Acharyas.
Srila Prabhupada ki
Jai.
So, now at this point, remember I said in the beginning of a lesson way back that think about where your relationship with Prabhupada is at. I'm really curious. It would help me to know how this journey through 10 lessons has, I hope it has somehow influenced your relationship with Srila Prabhupada. Or how it could have better influenced the relationship. That's what teachers really live for. Room for improvement, right? So I'm going to sit down, and if you could just share, just don't tell me a long thing, just a few words of how the journey has influenced your relationship with Prabhupada, or how it could have better influenced. Okay. In other words, I would have liked to have seen more, or heard more. Or I really didn't realize that, but thank you for pointing out this about Srila Prabhupada. Okay, let me just sit down here. Because, that's all right. Because it's by hearing from you all that this seminar series keeps improving. I mean, this is much better than what you saw in 2013 in Melbourne. I mean, it was okay, but it's much more balanced. That's what I've learned, balance. Do you think it's a little unbalanced now? Then you should have seen it before. Prabhu.
Srila Prabhupada gave us the form and the direction that we're supposed to be fixing our minds on Krishna. And then he left. And the impact on our separation from Srila Prabhupada was very overwhelming. There was chaos as a result. Grasping for straws in this chaos, all of his disciples are trying to do what you're saying we should be doing. Find what it is we can do in his mission. What is our mission and his mission? And so there was a lot of dispersing of energy that was at one time focused on his process. So my question is, how do we get past that point of being overwhelmed by the responsibility and be able to help to accept the change that is coming from these new persons who are just learning what is Krishna consciousness, how it can be applied for their benefit.
From who's new persons? Who are the new persons?
The second generation, the newcomers that are coming after Prabhupada's departure.
How can we get over the grief, and how can we transmit what Prabhupada gave us?
Exactly. How can we continue to expand instead of locking up the process in a form of
time warp,
samadhi or whatever? How can we open up to new energy?
Well, have you heard what came to mind as you were speaking was Keshav Bharati Maharaj and his program of reading Prabhupada's books out loud. When you hear Keshav Bharati Maharaj speak about how reading Prabhupada's books out loud has transformed him, and again, this is not for everybody, but it's a way of him connecting with Prabhupada in such a dynamic way. Him and Vaisheshika, the best friends. Or Bhaktivinoda Thakur. He reasons ill, who says that Vaishnavas die when thou art living still and sound. If I haven't gotten over Prabhupada's leaving physically, that means I really don't realize him, feel him, understand him in sound. I mean, that's how he's actually present. The Vaishnava dies to live, and living tries to spread the holy name around. So we will be automatically inspired, animated, alive, and able to move past our grief, which is natural, the grief. I mean, Prabhupada said he let out a cry of grief when his master left. And how much it must have aggrieved him when the Gaudiya Math just sunk more and more into litigation, and the preaching spirit went out the window. Prabhupada, he's with us. He's with us. I mean, for me, I can say that doing this mission has brought me so close to Prabhupada. But everybody has that. Everybody has something that Prabhupada wants us to do. And that will evolve as our life goes through different stages. So I guess the first thing is realizing Prabhupada's presence with us in sound. He's not gone. He's very much with us. But if I don't understand that or realize that, I'm going to feel like an orphan forever. You know? Do you want to add to that?
Yes. A good example is while Prabhupada was with us, we were doing the first 50% of his mission, and now it's difficult for us to transition to the other 50%.
Because first of all, we have to be interested, and we haven't even been so interested. Anyway, at least we've recovered from the imitation of him, and we're settling down to what he wants us to do. And it's manifesting more and more in different ways. Yes, Gokul, I just want to see. You're going to help me with that? Can I build on that?
It might.
Really
It might.
Okay.
I can't remember which lesson it was. It was maybe 2 or 3 back. And you went through all the progression of the years, and then 1977, and that Varnashram stage wasn't completed. I got really depressed, and then it came to me. There's a scene in following Srila Prabhupada where they're sitting in Prabhupada's room in LA. And Vishnu John is more like a statement rather than a question. But he very carefully chooses his words.
Vishnu John.
Yeah, Vishnu John Maharaj. And he says, Srila Prabhupada Bhaktivinoda Thakur said he left this world, his mission unfulfilled. And Prabhupada immediately goes, yes, he left us something to do. And that revived my, because I have to admit that one lesson really, I sunk into a deep hole. And
that's why the next lesson, finding a is supposed to bring out of the hole.
Yeah.
Because you can get depressed.
But somehow or other, though, I guess the next lesson after that, I can't get them all clear in my mind right now. But and I'm going to go back over them after you leave. But that quote or that scene, that saved me with Vishnu John saying that, and then Prabhupada said, yes, now we have something to do.
Yeah.
So Prabhupada left us something to do.
Yeah. I mean, think how disappointed and depressed Prabhupada could have been to the point of not going to the West. But Prabhupada, he was so fired up. He never lost it. He kept that flame burning. We just have to, we have to really identify as Prabhupada Anugas. Prabhupada's our foundational father, you could say.
I just want, and the other side of it didn't just depress me. I think the depression was kind of more, there was a mixture of anger and frustration because of everything that happened right after Prabhupada left.
Yeah.
And but that's just part of the growing pains, but it's hard for me to get over it.
Yeah, that's right. And people without help, just like when people go through trauma, they carry it with them their whole lives unless they get help. There's help. From Srila Prabhupada, from those who were close to him. Everybody has their story of why they should have left ISKCON, or did leave ISKCON, or whatever. But Prabhupada's story is the story which should give us inspiration to push on. Because just like nobody had it worse than Arjuna on the battlefield, nobody had it worse than Prabhupada when the Gaudiya Math fell apart and he's all alone in the pits, in the depths of the Bowery. Prabhupada he's the inspiration for all of us. And those who follow him can also help us out. I did see Yogi Indra has been raising his hand.
Yeah, I need to do this before everybody gets away. I apologize for not acting sooner. But, and I apologize that it took somebody to tell me. But I got this letter from Dr. Jesse, and he says, I just wanted to mention that before I left, I had talked with Suresvara Prabhu about collecting some donations from the congregation for giving his seminar. He and I thought it might be best if you make an announcement before the presentation, so at least this is a little bit during, that if they would like to donate, they can directly give to his PayPal account.
Well, this is very embarrassing. Come on.
No, this is very good.
No, well, if I don't do it, I'm going to do it again tomorrow morning, but it has to be done. So
it's all about the money, right? No, I understand the but that's okay.
So his PayPal account is under the email of his name. It's Suresvara, spelled SURESVARA @gmail.com. If y'all don't know how to do that, you have to have a PayPal account to do it. But otherwise, you can just give him a check or cash or whatever.
I'll tell you, the best dakshina is prayers for health. What I went through in the past 2 years, I thought I was finished. And then Prabhupada and Krishna let me get better. But come on, the body's 72. The astrologers, the doctors say, you got, maybe 10 years. So before that time is up, I want to really multiply this, in Manipur TV and get people fired up to teach it themselves, perhaps. So really, just pray to Sri Sri Radhakanta that Suresvara Das can keep his health for many more years. Because when I travel, this is needed more than ever. Wherever I go, there's no end in sight to this. Please pray for me. Health is the first wealth, right? Without health, you can't do anything.
I wanted to thank you so much, Prabhu. I think I told you, how much I appreciate the disciples of my Guru Maharaj. I think we're older. We came in the 80s, so we have that foundation. Not that it can't be, bettered, but I think a role that we can play is to instill that and talk about that and preach about that to our younger God siblings, because I'm really sheltered. I don't go many other places than here, but from what you've said, there is just a great need, and we have connections, with our the other disciples that we can really, I feel, could be like instruments to help to foster this mood of understanding that Prabhupada is our foundational guru. Like Mother Kaivalya is very articulate, Mahalakshmi, also Mother Maharani, she's a real preacher with her prasadam that I really feel inspired to assist in some way to get the word out.
Thank you. And you know what I do? I have a file of appreciations, and when leaders don't know me, TPs, I send them that. And so it's all based on, referrals, or so that's the best advertising. Well, so-and-so likes it, we must have this. So you spread the word that, you might consider Prabhu, inviting Prabhu to your yatra, and that's good. That'll help.
Yeah, I agree with, we've been talking about that ever since I joined, which was like in the early 80s, Prabhupada was always a center for me. I never had any doubts about that, but I can see as I've spoken and I've heard comments from new people, and their guru, for them, they live on the outside. They don't come to the temple, so they don't even know about Guru Puja. So they're living on the outside, and they're trying to develop the relationship with their Guru Maharaj, who also is giving them, so much nectar about Prabhupada, about Lord Chaitanya, but they need to understand the mood. So I was just wondering also if you have any contacts, like on Facebook, or are you out there preaching? Because I'd like to sort of follow what you do and also add.
Well, I'll tell you, in 2015, my daughter, who's, of course, because she's a millennial, she's so tech savvy, she set up a founder Acharya site for me. But I really have a hard time with social media. I'm an old analog guy. So I finally, just before I left with Tucson, I had a young devotee completely resign me from Facebook, because they don't easily let you go. If you ever try to cancel out of Facebook, I don't have I'm too busy living to be on social. I know there's a value for it. I didn't mean anything by that. If you're on Facebook or whatever, but I have no contact with Facebook. But and I don't have disciples saying, hey, talking it up and then, soliciting engagements for me or anything. So it's just word of mouth. I find that's enough. I have such a limited capacity. I mean, the best advertising is word of mouth, and somehow or other I never lack for engagement. But if you want to go on Facebook and talk it up and reach people all over the world, that's fine with me. I mean, I'm all booked up for next summer already. Kazakhstan and...
Well, is there a website or something we can refer them to?
No, but I can give you links. Or you can, is this going to be on your...
It'll be on our YouTube series.
Yeah, so just get the latest edition.
When you say links, what do you mean?
Well, I have, like when I did in Melbourne in 2013, the videographer who videoed it expertly, because he's a professional videographer, he just gave me a link that people could go to, click on, and then they'd see it. It's in a link to somewhere in cyberspace.
So it'll be the Melbourne presentation.
The Melbourne 2013, yeah, it's on their YouTube channel. Yeah, it's mostly.
My wife has been watching Sydney, I think.
Yeah, I presented in Sydney, but that was a little spaced out. They didn't have Sydney. Are you sure?
Maybe it's the Melbourne.
It was probably Melbourne, because that's where they did it. 10 nights, like that.
But you said this is more tweaked and this is more up to date.
This is better.
This one.
This is better. So, if it's going to be on your YouTube channel?
It's already there, Prabhu.
It's already there?
Yeah, all 9 so
and
far.
We're on the air. It's live streaming right now, right?
Not live streaming.
Not live streaming.
Uploading.
Can you give Suresvara a link to ours also? That he can just email him a link? And so if you want to give away that link, you give away that link.
Yeah, I mean, pretty soon I'll be able to just refer people to my 4TV and the Prabhupada channel. But that's going to be a year, and I'm just carrying, as I said, I'm carrying the first 3 lessons now. So, yeah, others, I'm like the guy that just, just wind me up, put me on the stage, but I can't do all the back. That's all I can do to do email with someone like Jesse to inspire you. Remember, it came from Jesse, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I said, oh, you're a new Talavana, Jesse, because we knew each other in Hawaii. Why don't you ask Yogendra if he'd like to have... And immediately Yogendra was receptive. He was dry grass. He was like ready to blaze, That's how it happens. It's friends of a friend and who you know. And nothing systematic, though. So we could give him, before it does get up on my poor TV, I could have you just have a YouTube channel. New Talavana on YouTube. What do they type in?
The easiest way to go is you go to newtalavan.org. That's our website, and then on the right hand top corner we have our links for the social media, Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. So you go to YouTube, then there's the
newtalavan.org, and then just look for their YouTube channel. And then in YouTube they type in what are you calling it?
YouTube.
Yeah, but when you get into YouTube, what are you typing in for them to
It brings you directly to our spot if you click on it on our website.
Yeah, but then on the site...
Otherwise you can type in like Srila Prabhupada as our founder, Acharya Seminar, Suresvara Prabhu, New Taliban, all these...
On your YouTube channel? Okay. Yeah, because if you just type that in off Google, you're going to come up with Melbourne probably. So first, the key is getting into your YouTube channel, and then typing in...
Do that as capital ISKCON, all caps.
All caps.
Then New Taliban, and the first letter New Taliban is capital.
Okay.
And that'll take you right to just that page.
I said an A on New Talavana?
What?
A on the end of New Talavana? The A
Yeah.
Like on the sign?
That's it, that's the A.
Okay.
But you have to go to capital N, capital T.
Okay. I really like this audience. This is all kind of down-home audience. And you're not rid of me yet, because I don't leave till Tuesday. Plus, after Knoxville...
Coming back.
Yeah. So Indra kindly let me come back here and chill for a few days before I fly out on Emirates to Calcutta.
Oh, that's a nice area.
So I'll be back 2 weeks from Tuesday. Tuesday I leave, and then 2 weeks from then I come back here till Friday.
Sure.
So we can have our Sangha. And I'll be freer. I'm grateful for your tolerance. That usually when I go to a place, I do go over people's houses and we catch up and we talk and more questions about each lesson. But as you know, I'm hiding so I can finish my presentation for Knoxville. And I'm going to be hiding while I'm there, because I'm going to be 1 weekend ahead of them. So while I'm doing the first weekend, I'm going to work on the second weekend's lessons. Okay, so thanks for your input. And tomorrow we are going to do Q&A, right? Still?
Yeah, I think that's the plan.
Yeah. And if we don't, I'm just counting on you folks to ask anything and everything, because I won't have anything to say.
Oh, are you doing the Sunday Peace lecture? I don't see my
No, I'm hiding. I'm still hiding.
Oh, I think, okay.
If you ask,
you sure you don't want to do that today?
I want to do so many things, but I can't do anything but keep going on my marathon.
Okay.
And show up for prasad. Embarrassing, but okay. One more question.
I just wanted to thank you again, and it absolutely helped me, because I was researching about Srila Prabhupada, and there's a little quote, if anyone, can I say it, or should I let the devotees leave?
Is it short?
I think so. It's from Prabhupada Smaran, and remembering Srila Prabhupada.
So true book?
Yeah, Prabhupada Smaran.
It's that by memories of Srila Prabhupada are nectar. Without them, there would be no substance to Prabhupada consciousness. If there were no memories of Prabhupada, then he would become only a legend. But there is a lot more to Prabhupada consciousness than memories of him. By meditating on the memories and practicing internal minute-to-minute surrender, we will be Prabhupada conscious. And the eternal cultivation is very important. In Prabhupada recall doesn't mean daily remember what he did in the 70s. It means recalling our need to serve him now. So I appreciate your whole seminar, because that's what it gets me going to try to do things that remember Prabhupada and his instructions.
Yeah, so we can keep going forever. He lives forever.
Did Krishna Shai had his hand up for a long time? Did you have actually questions?
I was just going to say thank you, and this is the 5th time I've attended your seminar.
5th time?
Yeah, 4 times on YouTube,
You watched the whole thing?
Actually, probably more than that. I would watch it again and again to really get it in. I would bring up quotes in class from time to time too. And Jesse said,
"You ought to be teaching this then." Really?
And then Jesse said, "I know Suresvara." I said, "Really?" He said, "Yeah, from Hawaii." I said, "Do you think we can get it in?" He said, "I think I can check on that."
Yeah.
And so
Okay.
he checked, and you came. Thank
You
you so
planted
much.
the seed. Well, thank you for having
Thank
me.
you so much.
I remember
this
that
is the
from
best.
your club meeting when that happened.
You were there.
Yeah.
And so this is the
Thank you
best.
for
Thank you
coming.
so much. And
Thank you,
we
Prabhu.
will-
It's
we
so
will pray
fun.
for you.
I feel like Santa Claus, you know. Just wherever I go, I just give Prabhupada's matchless
Thank you
gifts.
for giving me.
Fun engagement.
Thank you. So, oh, and it was that devotee, the young devotee, that was eating during Prabhupada's Vyasa Puja.
Oh yeah.
And that story really just grabbed me because they said, the elder devotee said, "You're not going to the program?" He said, "Prabhupada's not my guru. He's your guru." I said, "Whoa."
Yeah.
There's so many people out there that kind of felt that. And
Yeah.
instead of focusing on the Bapu, it is a natural thing to now start focusing on it.
Yeah.
And we're all Prabhupada knew this. And we don't have to jump.
We don't have to jump.
Thank you, Prabhupada.
Okay. Thank you. And yeah, to be continued.
Thank you.
Srila Prabhupada ki
Jai.
jai.